Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming out in this weather and bearing with us for the late start. We were hoping that we would have had more persons present, but I am sure that persons are much more comfortable in their beds watching from the world of social media. So what we will do tonight, we will modify the program where we will just give a brief overview of what the Thorne Commission is hoping to achieve, and then we will have 2 presentations by persons in the audience. And that will be the program for tonight. My name is Crystal Howell, and I am also accompanied by Adrian Donovan. We have in the crowd members of the Thorne Commission, including His Excellency David Commichon, Minister Cynthia Ford, and MP Ralph Thorne. I hope they do not abuse me for abbreviating all of their accolades. The Thorne Commission has hosted a series of town halls in an effort to be able to gather persons' ideas and thoughts as to how we should proceed. We would have a proposed structure which has been published in the media and is also available on our Facebook page. However, it is just that, a proposal. We are hoping to gather input from persons throughout the different communities that we will be visiting, and we will accumulate these ideas and thoughts to come up with a structured final program. The initial proposal will include having an assembly that will look to improve accountability in governance, engage people participation, establish high standards in the public service, contribute creativity, intelligence, and energy to public affairs administration, deliver critical services to communities, protect neighborhood welfare, and participate in collective decision-making and administrative activities that are designed to foster social and national unity. We're proposing 20 assemblies across Barbados, and anything that you see is up for discussion. We've already had 4 town hall meetings, and we've had a number of persons that have submitted proposals, written proposals, verbal proposals. We have been minuting these town halls, and we have a subcommittee that will be dissecting this information and coming up with a final program for us to move forward with. So at this time, I'd like to turn over to Mr. Bobby Clarke and welcome his thoughts and ideas as to how we should proceed. And it's okay if you sit, because I know you might not want to stand for a long time.
Good night. This is usually the position when you come to real meetings. Instead of the people coming, you have to talk and hope that they hear from a distance. The importance of this meeting, as to the other meetings that will be kept on the local government position, is to establish a real democracy in Barbados. That people, for the first time, will really have real rights to make decisions based upon the needs of their communities and needs of the whole of Barbados. Some of the points I would like to raise that we should look at is that the communities themselves in each district should look at all of the needs that community needs. These would include road repairs, school building repairs, all persons that should be visited on a normal weekly basis or monthly basis by members of the community or by families of the community. We should take the names, addresses, and the close family structures of the older persons. We should take their medical background positions. So that's all put into our group, and those people must be visited regularly by members of this commission, of the commissions. There should be a list of all of the people in the community with talent, like carpenters, masons, electricians, plumbers, so that there is that list that can be called upon immediately. There's a problem in the community, and not wait as we have now a hole in the road. It takes 2 or 4 months for the people to come and look at it, then to measure it, then to decide if there's sufficient water in the hole to do. So that's to build a community. You have people from that community dealing with all of the issues, with problems.
Check your microphone.
School education problems, people problems in the school as you are having all over Barbados right now. I think there have to be debates with the community at all times. We have to find why children don't go to school. If there's a problem with the financial position at the family, how do we deal with that? If there's a sick position in the family, how do we deal with that? We have to bring the whole community together as we move forward towards democratizing the whole of Barbados. The other efforts we have to make, we have to come to some decision on how we're going to, although we hope that the people in the districts would give their time freely. Sometimes there's a difficulty with them and they have to need some funds. So we have to work out what kind of funding we would do for the carpenters, the masons, the plumbers, the electricians that will be on call at all times, morning, noon, and night, if the person needs the house fixed, especially older persons. So we have to deal with the category of old people, how we deal. We should set up committees to deal with the individual patterns we're talking about. The school children, the old people, the sick people, so we can move it forward. Right? In my view, our councils should have complete independence, no interference from the central government, none whatsoever. If the central government wants to send somebody to listen to our meetings or to take part in the meetings, they come as members of that grouping, but not as the government to give any ideas, any orders to the group. So we can work as knowing the problems in that area ourselves. As I say, the major problem in building this kind of institution must start from the children up. So that we have to have meetings with the children and the children's parents. We have to bring them in as soon as possible once we form these organizations. So the parents get immediate understanding as to what we're trying to do in the community to build up the community into a crime-free education at a higher level, family connections, looking after older people, to get that community spirit into Barbados, which was there during our great-grandmother days, which has been missing for the last 30 years or so. So we have to move in that direction. We have to, I think we have to deal with some kind of funding. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that if we can get the government to do a position of funding based upon whatever points we put forward as they need. So we need an office area, we need an office staff to go with that. So we need a computer or computerization of the office staff. So that could be a committee, could be dealt with how we build up the structures for the office building. All right. Well, the committees can be dealt with on housing, committees can be dealt with on health, on education, all that type of stuff. We build that up. But we have to get a bigger assembly of people to come to the meetings so they can ask questions of how do we do that? How do we move from there? I think that's a good beginning, but I think that we should find some way, how do we move it to that stuff so this place should have at least 60 or 70 people in it now. You know, how do we get to that level?
I appreciate the comments. I have a few questions for you based on some previous meetings we've had and some points that you touched on that would have also been discussed previously. You mentioned not having any interference from government. One of the things we've been discussing was the composition of the People Assemblies, where we'd have some persons from the private sector, some from the public sector, and a youth composition. So would...
Not so much private sector
well, community. Yes. So non-public servants and having public servants, and then the issue as to public servants, if they are on the assemblies, what would be their capacity given that some of their functions would cross over if you're involved with the Ministry of Transport and Works and there's something that's needed to be done with potholes, that crosses over into your domain. So what is your opinion as to the composition for the assemblies and whether that structure could or could not work?
See, when we build a community and we have the people who, the carpenters, the masons, that whole group, they put together a group, especially road builders and they would know when the road is bad, it has to be fixed tomorrow morning, not next week and not be after calling a ministry or that. And it all comes from the community itself. So the community will still have to work with financing through, and that will come through the government. So that will be a kind of major finance that's given to each community based upon the positions that they put forward. So they have to cost everything, and they put forward that cost into the government, and the government determines how much money, so we will know how much money each community has. And we will get some of that information, say, from the road builders. We'll know what kind of cost it costs.
What you want to find out is if you would be in favor of public servants sitting on the People's Assemblies.
In terms of public servants, once you are a member of the community, that gives you that right.
Okay.
You're a member of the community. You're not there as a public servant. You're there as a member of the community in which you're helping to look after the whole community. So that, you don't have to think that you work in the Ministry of Finance.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you would have touched on was with regards to age. We've had some discussion as well as to if there should be an age limit, whether 18 to whatever age, 16, no age limit. What are your thoughts on that?
No age limit, adults.
Okay.
Adults, because...
What if you had a
except
secondary school child who
the
was...
schools themselves, the schools would have another input besides being members of the thing. They will have an educational input into that so that the teachers in school, and they can bring along some of the senior students in school that will be part of that. So you build the whole community from the bottom up. So the school children, the school children will be part of listening to a teacher. At school, they might listen to the teacher too well, but in this kind of setting, when you deal with the community itself, they will listen more to the teacher as a senior person and the person who have their goodness at heart. So that could build, you can build it that way.
With regards to the funding and the budget, that is going to be part of the discussion. There will be a budget for the different communities, but one of the discussions that has also been happening across the town halls, what if one particular area has more needs than another? How do you then determine that each assembly would have the same amount of money when there are different needs and some persons may have larger or more expensive needs than another community? So another discussion has been, how should we determine how much each assembly should have in their budget, whether it should be equal or if we should employ some form of equity?
You can word it in the way that all members of that community are equal, right? So if there's some major problem that causes push up in the funds because of some accident or something that will go wrong, and the committee agrees that that is true, then we fund it out of the central funding that we would get.
Okay, so you think there should be a central fund, and if St. Lucie has 10 potholes and St. James only has 1, St. Lucie would have a greater access to the central funds than St. James, for
I'm not
example.
thinking, you see, I'm saying that they will have a greater position to start to build the fixing potholes. They will find a way that we can find ways to get the funds by other people helping. If you're going to build a community, you got to build it from the people up.
Yes.
Now, it's not saying that I ain't get the funds from the government to see, so you pothole goes then. No. We're going to find a way to deal with it.
Okay. And the last area you would have touched on would have been related to remunerations for volunteers. There's been a divide in terms of some persons thinking there should be purely a volunteer effort, and others think that there should be some remuneration. And then there's been some discussion on the in-between where you get reimbursement for standard expenses that you may incur as part of your volunteer work. So where would you lean?
I would think that everybody should volunteer the time. But it's a humanity position, so you would know that some people they need help. So you work that out. We can discuss it among the group saying, yes, the brother has not been able to work for 4 weeks. He has 2 children, grandmother's sick, so we have to find that funding. We have to build the community so everybody can understand that we're not in this for ourselves. We're in this to build that community and make it a whole different society to the one we have now. So we can push that.
You have any comments?
My question to you, how do you perceive getting young people out from the community to be part of these assemblies? Because wherever we go, you see there's a small attendance of young people.
You got to bring the parents in and talk to them.
Young people are
You
on
have to
social
bring
media.
the parents in and talk to them, you know, and let them bring along their young children so we can talk to them. Let me give you a good example here. A few years back, I was in the courtyard and I saw a young 15-year-old boy just stand up in the courtyard. So I went to him and I started to talk to him like a father. How you keeping? How you keeping? Things going good with you? I said, but what school you going to? How things getting on and things? He said, old man, I like you don't know nothing about life. He said, life but one thing, money. And whatever you got to do to get it, kill or get killed, old man like you understand what we're talking about. So that's the society that we have to deal with. How do we change that position? How do we get that change? And I think the problems that we've had over the last 30, 40 years is when we put money at the top of our thinking. That we have to work to get money, to get more money. So a brother would tell you, and his mother would tell you this, if he went and work as an ordinary job, he get about $50 a day. But when he go out there paying marijuana thing, he bring home $700. So I like my son, he's a good son. She isn't thinking about the badness that he has done by giving $700 worth of marijuana or cocaine or crack to some little young student that will not become part of the problem. So it's how we get to that society. We got to learn to talk to the families. Let them come to these meetings. You know, they'll tell us, we ain't got no money. Okay, we got to find a way to deal with it. How do you go back to school? How do you do some extra classes? How do you learn another trade? And if we have to be able to do that for them. We can't just tell them that, you know, if you go and learn to be a plumber or electrician or something, but then we have to find a way to put it into them.
We had a situation over the weekend where, besides in the press, we had some bad weather in some parts of the island. And a particular community in Barbados has 40 people in this housing area, 40 people in this housing area. And there's a well next to the housing area, the block, a well. And the front of the well was blocked by leaves, debris. As a result, the entire block was surrounded by water. And none of the 40 residents, none of the 40, came down and cleared in front of the well so the water could go in. So they waited Saturday and Sunday, and all the water flooded all around the block. And they called MPW Monday morning, complaining, cursing government. I want to call them program. They won't care about them. Not one person, not one in that community.
That's what this kind of organization is here for. The members of this organization must educate the people in their area to know that this is our problem, this is our business. We must do this. We can't just say we ain't got the money or we can't do this. We can find people that will help us.
Yeah, once upon a time we could identify a community leader in every community.
I'm showing all these people here that know that they can help. We can help. We just have to start it, and we can move forward.
This is why we are here. We need people in the community to come out, lend assistance, and raise their hand and say, "I'm prepared to lead. I'm prepared to bring the rest to follow me." That's what the meetings are here for.
Can be done.
Thank you for your contribution. We definitely appreciate it. We have another gentleman in the audience who would also like to share. You can give us your name, and then we'll share some of the comments that we have on social media.
There's another comment he wants to make.
There's another comment?
Yeah.
Apologies.
I've had the experience. And I've had the chance over a number of years to visit Cuba. And in Cuba, I'm considered a Cuban. But out of their experience, you see children leaving school on the evenings going back home, and they all traveled in a line. There's no teacher with them, just school children moving from school to the bus terminal or the bus stop to catch the bus to go. So there's no hankering or screaming or shouting. It's just a disciplined society. I believe they've done that through the education system and through the parental system. So you treat them and say, this is Cuban culture. Cuban culture doesn't mean just walk up and dance up and sing up. It means being part and parcel of the development of all the aspects of your Cuban situation. And that is one of the things I think we can help build into the parents. The parents got to also guide the children along those lines, you know. You don't have to, you don't become a bigger woman by being flunky, you know. You become a bigger woman by having a better brain. You develop the educational aspects of it, and you move it forward. In the same way, Cuban aspect, you know, you can go along a place they call the Manacon, and that is on the beach side, and it runs maybe 3-4 miles, the wall. But every day you'll find Cubans sitting down on that wall, fishing or talking or laughing or dancing. It's just a friendship position. It isn't you. I cannot remember in all the years I've gone to Cuba seeing a policeman. There must be some, but I can't remember seeing one. You can walk through Havana at midnight without any fear. There's no violence, there's no crime element at that level. You know, I've been lucky to attend a court case in which a little boy, 16 years, was charged with stealing a bicycle. And they had 3 judges doing the case. The little boy had a lawyer representing him, and the government had a lawyer representing the state over stealing this bicycle. That case lasted the whole day. And all the judges and the lawyers wanted, from both sides, why did you do it? What's the reason? And they spent the whole day trying to find, why would you steal a bicycle when you get on the bus free? There's no difficulty in getting from point A to point B. Why would you steal a bicycle? Eventually, they found out from talking to him for all those hours that he was watching a television show and he see somebody steal, and he'd pick it up from that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the court spent more than 5 hours to get to that level, to find out why, so they can correct it. We don't have that yet in the system.
I'm glad you shared that story, because I had some person mention it recently, but they didn't share the part where they got down to why he did it.
Yes,
and that is something that's really important, because oftentimes we throw persons who commit those kind of crimes and penalties with a very hard look. But if we dig deep, and if we get back to society digging deep as to why people do these things, we often find that the stories behind them would lead to us looking with more compassion and correction and support, rather than just penalties and throwing them away where society no longer sees them as a viable option. And I'm hoping that these assemblies can help us to get back to that place and to take some lessons from Cuba. And I really do appreciate you sharing. If no one has said it before, Bobby, you are one of Barbados' heroes for the work that you have done.
There's another important element coming out of the Cuban experience, is that you never finish school.
Yeah.
You never finish school. I was talking to a doctor in the hospital a few months ago, and he's from Nigeria, and he was telling me that he's a heart surgeon. So whenever he goes back to Nigeria, working on $50 a month, when he goes back to Nigeria, the doctors at the hospital say, why don't you come over and work with us? You get $50,000 a month. He asked me what I can do with it. What am I going to do with it? Explain to me what I can do with it. And then he will go through his expenses on $50 a month, the price of bread, the price of electricity, the price of rent, and he still have money over. But the other fellow, when he worked $50,000, may pay 500 there and the 500 there, and I end up with nothing. So it is how you utilize this system, how this system creates the goodnesses for the people that come along with. And therefore, that education, you can go to school forever. It doesn't stop you. You know, you want to be a plumber next week, you go. Mm-hmm. You want to be an electrician, you go. And there's no fees on the school system. So it's all you can't develop a community unless you give the community the brains to move forward. And that's what the Cuban system has done. Thank you.
Thank you as well. We have a gentleman in the back.
Marcus using it.
No.
Dr. Jerry Thorne.
Hi, brother.
First of all, good night.
Good night, Mr. Thorne.
Good night.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your overview as to what this commission is about. And thank you, Mr. Clarke, for your expanding on that. I'm very grateful. The general
Sorry,
trust
can you
of this
share your
commission-
name for the purpose of the recording?
I'm Jerry Thorne.
Okay.
The general thrust of this commission, I broadly agree with. I think is the only way we can pursue and achieve a just society. But having said that, my reason for being here is entirely selfish. I'm drawn here because this is Spitestone. And Spitestone is where my roots, my father and my father's family, my grandmother are from this area. And I feel a very intimate attachment to Spitestone and St. Peter, suburban Spitestone. That's where I'm from. And some of the most memorable moments of my life were had in Spitestone. If at all possible, I would like this commission to somehow encapsulate the unique character of Spitestone and seek, by whatever means possible, to preserve Spitestone as the cultural entity that it is, as the place that I remembered and was fascinated by as a boy. I'm not certain, but from what you've said, Madam Chair, I think it can be incorporated. Certainly, the uniqueness of Spitestone, I believe, is encapsulated in legislation, it being a special development area and so on. So I'm wondering to what extent this commission can focus on preserving the unique cultural heritage of Spitestone. The broader remit I accept, but how do we encourage this community to preserve Spitestone for all future boys like myself? And that is what I'm inquiring about. That is what I am about.
I'm sure if you visit.
In relation to
Go ahead. One of the great things about visiting each area is that we hear similar stories like that across the country. When we went to St. Lucie, the community spirit that we would have experienced in St. Lucie, they're very proud of where they are. St. James, you have a different feel and a culture for the persons there, but the pride, the one thing is the pride in the community does exist. And I am hopeful that these assemblies will be able to display that in full, in whatever unique way each parish is able to exhibit their community spirit and their willingness to contribute. How St. Lucie does it, how St. James does it, how Spikestone does it will all be very different, but will all be an example of how community spirit should be preserved and exemplified in Barbados, and we will take lessons learned from each. We will definitely be depending on persons like yourself who will have the memories of what would have worked, because many times we take one particular area and we toss it out because we say it's old. But there's so many lessons that we can learn from looking back at the past, so that when we move forward into the future, we don't throw away the things that helped us to get here. And Spikestone has that unique opportunity to share and to give to the rest of this country what worked, because persons I talk to who come from Spikestone, they have that community spirit. It is still there, and it's something that's missing in some other areas. And if we can bottle that somehow and share that, that would be a huge accomplishment. I believe you would like to share as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to respond very quickly to Jerry. And Jerry's comment really shows the importance and value of these sessions, these community sessions, because he has introduced an idea that can extend or expand some of the functions that we have already considered for the People's Assemblies. So, Jerry, the idea that you have would not so much pertain to the Thorne Commission, because the Thorne Commission is just to carry out the national consultations and to ultimately devise what the People's Assemblies will look like. But it goes directly to the functions of the People's Assemblies that will come out of this Thorne Commission exercise, because two of the functions that we envisage the People's Assemblies undertaking are being consulted by town and country planning when they have applications before them for major development projects within the geographical area of the assembly. So, for example, the assembly that will be here in St. Peter, when town and country planning has applications before it for projects that pertain to Spikestone, the People's Assembly would have to be consulted. In addition, the People's Assembly is expected to make inputs into government development planning for the geographical area. And when we thought of that function, we were thinking mostly about the assemblies advising government ministries and departments as to the needs of their assembly areas for such things as road repairs, public housing, health clinics, jobs for the unemployed, etc. But you have now introduced another element. You are in fact saying that the assemblies could actually undertake some responsibility for preserving the historical and cultural heritage of an important cultural heritage area within the Assembly's geographical space. And I think that is definitely something that we need to put into the mix, because yes, an assembly could see its responsibility extending to heritage and cultural preservation. And so definitely, you know, all of the suggestions that we are getting at these consultations are being recorded, and ultimately we're going to sit down and we're going to go through all of the proposals and suggestions put before us, and we're going to come up with the best design for these people's assemblies. And that definitely appeals to me, the assembly undertaking some responsibility for preserving and even enhancing important cultural heritage areas of Barbados. That's what I wanted to say.
The element that Jerry might have missed out is that in those days, back in the 20s, 30s, I'm born in the 30s, so I can talk about it. And you had a schooner line from Speightstown to Bridgetown, so that the road traffic that we have now could change a lot if we go back to using the sea as a transportation system from Speightstown to Bridgetown, and maybe not to Bridgetown, as far as Oistins it can go, so it can build up on that background knowledge of Speightstown. And it was not just a schooner moving, but also a massive fishing village, and it can be built back into what would have been the early days that my brothers lived under. So we can put that into the stew. That's how we can develop Speightstown, not just from its better position. You agree?
I do. I think the commission, I recognize that we're stretching, Mr. Commission, the ambit of the commission as is being explained to me. You know, the preservation of an area necessitates a symbiosis between those people who reside in that area and the whole character, the nature, the construct of the area. You cannot divorce the two. So that the persons in the area must be at the forefront of the preservation effort. They must see themselves reflected in the stones, the bricks, the mortar, the jetties that form the area. And once they see themselves reflected in that, then they would seek to preserve it. They will understand their role. It is theirs to preserve. And they're not only preserving it for themselves, they're preserving it for all future Barbadians. And I think, so perhaps I'm stretching it.
No.
Mr. Commission.
What we're saying is the People's Assembly that will come out of this whole exercise, the People's Assembly for St. Peter, that will come out of this exercise, comprising residents of the St. Peter communities. That People's Assembly will have, or could have, as one of its functions, the cultural preservation of important cultural heritage areas within St. Peter, such as Speightstown. So I'm with you. I'm saying you are correct. I don't think up to now we thought of it in quite that way. We were thinking more about, the People's Assembly having an input to government in terms of building of roads or building of a health clinic. So I don't think we didn't go as far as to say, well, let the People's Assembly have a role in cultural and heritage preservation. But you are right. That would be a natural function for People's Assembly. So the Thorne Commission, after we have consulted with the whole of Barbados, we will produce a design for what we are proposing will be 20 People's Assemblies that will be installed all over Barbados. And we envisage that St. Peter will have, say, one or two for St. Peter. One, that St. Peter will have one. And it will comprise residents of St. Peter. So once that assembly is in place, we are saying a lot, based on what you have just put before us, that a logical function of that assembly should be to be involved in the preservation of important cultural and heritage areas within the St. Peter Parish, like Spikestown. So we thank you for the suggestion, because we were thinking about it, but you have amplified the function. We were thinking about a similar kind of function, but you have taken it a bit further. So we thank you for that suggestion.
But so, Jerry, can we also infer that you like to see it done in every community going forward? We could start at Spikestown, and we could go to St. Peter.
Same function, same type.
Yeah.
Every community has.
I started by saying
some kind of.
I'm being very selfish here.
You started that being selfish, and
Yeah, and
I heard you.
I think Spikestown is particularly unique. It's not the first town hall meeting I've been party to in Spikestown, so I know that I'm speaking to the converted when I speak to Spikestown people. They are deeply committed
the people in
to
Christchurch will
nurturing
say,
this area.
Town.
I accept that.
I could go
I
on.
accept that, Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
But
He's going to represent
that is
for
their
his-
business.
Exactly. He's representing for
I
his
don't
people.
know. What I do know is that this is unique, huh? And the people here are very keen on its preservation, and there should be that keenness to be nurtured by every vehicle available. And I see this commission as the primary vehicle.
Thank you very much.
While we wait for other persons to come forward and share, I'll very quickly share one of the online comments. We have Don Williams making a comment that perhaps some focus groups can be set up at the schools or tertiary institutions with the reward that the time spent would count towards their annual volunteer hours, which are now mandated. So if we can incorporate that aspect so that their time spent with the People's Assemblies would count towards those hours, that would be a very good suggestion, in my opinion, to encourage young persons to participate in the People's Assemblies.
Excellent idea.
Donna's a smart lady, you know.
Yes. Sandi's ready, Kristen. Sandi's ready.
Good evening, panel, Madam Chair. I am an import. I'm Sandi Field Kelman. I'm an import. My husband brought me here a year ago.
Welcome import.
To St. Peter, and since I've been down here, I started last September a volunteer group, and that came because I, as a Barbadian, having traveled the Caribbean, I find that we lack that character about communities. And I lived in Trinidad a long time, and I was telling somebody at the gathering yesterday in St. Lucie that I find that we don't have that Barbadiana thing in the communities. I lived in St. George for 20 years, and we have had a community, but I'm not there anymore, there in Watts Village. So I brought that thinking and that here to St. Peter, where I live. I have about 20 or 22 people in it from a local church there by the gas station, Rubis gas station. And at Christmas, we did a lot of voluntary work in the area. I wanted to do more, but, you know, I teach and so on. But I'm finding that where I live, and there's a kind of a little block group at the entrance where I live. There are about 20 guys who play dominoes, et cetera, and I usually go there because one lady who lives in my area, her son is in that group, a good block group, and we share a lot of information. And since I've been to St. Peter, I've learned a lot. So our group, our 22 people, we are trying to build and bring back the character. And I did a lot of research on St. Peter because this is where I'm going to be living until God calls me home. And my husband is from St. Peter, so he gave me a lot of history, and he told me about that same schooner thing when he was growing up. And so we are trying to do a lot of old-time stuff, back here in St. Peter, and the people in the church said that unfortunately sometimes the people from St. Peter or Speightstown, whichever you call it, don't get involved. It's usually because there are about 8 imports in my group from different parishes. So we are hoping that 2020 is the year that we can start to build back that character in Speightstown and St. Peter. And we did, 2 weeks ago, we did a cookout on the beach in front of St. Peter's Bay, because there's still an open window there. And a lot of volunteer work, like with the elderly, that type of thing. So I really, because I'm going to be here permanently, I really want to see that grow. And there are 2 more people who are going to be moving in. There are some people who are Barbadians that lived in England who returned to Barbados. So we have some of those people, ex-nurses and so on. So I think that what Jerry shared is very vital, and I'm real cognizant of the fact that we need in Barbados to each community to have their own, if you want to call it, their own ethnic, feeling and so on. Because, like, I find that when we compare, say, Trinidad with Barbados, in music, our people are more conservative than Barbadians when it comes to Caeso than Trinidadians. Trinidadians, I mean, they only have to hear something stick, and they're moving. And I find when I go to a lot of places here, music is playing, and you do not see the Barbadians feeling it. But remember, we were colonized really by the British. We don't have that French and Spanish influence in us. So I'm saying that to say that Trinidad has their own thing. And I want to see in our parishes the different communities having their own thing. Like Bathsheba, I lived in Bathsheba for a while too, and they had we had a lady who used to work for us called Mrs. Whole Day. And I found Bathsheba had their own thing when I was a girl growing up. I don't see it anymore in Bathsheba. So we have lost it. So I really would like to see, that's why I came to the meeting tonight, because I have that volunteer group, I want to really build on it. And I wanted to hear more about when we get to the assemblies, what we will be really and truly focusing on and so on. So I am just glad to be here and a resident now of St. Peter, your place, and I move around to a lot of homes and so on, mainly at night, because that's the time I come home, and on the weekends. And I really must say that I have the imports in my group are more, to me, passionate and gung-ho about St. Peter and Speightstown. Even I'm more passionate about St. Peter than my husband. So, I really do think that in another year or 2, we will be really a step ahead by the time we finish all of the different town hall things in the different communities, and we reach to the People's Assembly. So thank you very much, and I am, as the Bajan say, out of here because I gotta go home.
Thank you for your contribution.
Really, we want to congratulate Sandi on her national honor.
Here, here. Here, here.
Duly deserving. Yes, that's where I just came from. Okay. Sorry that the other parties have lost you. You now become a St. Peter resident, but I guess Jerry would welcome you with open arms.
I just prove that I have 2 children who are going to be coming to live with me, because it's just myself and my husband, because my daughter is married and all that. And I am going to, these are girls that I work with in Girl Guides who really don't have the wherewithal, and I'm hoping that by April that I get the permission and so on to bring them to live with me. There are children really and truly one is from St. Philip and one is from up by Grantley Adams School.
So before you leave your involvement now, what about your impression of it? Because you are big in Girl Guides. Mm-hmm. Can they be part of the assembly? In what way can they play a role?
Well, to be very honest with you, Donovan, is that our plate in Girl Guides full. Like right now, I look after 5 schools, and I should not even be doing that because we cannot find volunteer women to come and volunteer. And when you have to run 5 schools, it's 5 evenings out of your time. And we cannot find women because the women are asking, you know, are you paying? We cannot pay. It's a charitable or volunteer organization. We are involved in regathering, and we have a lot of, like Juliet Lowe, we have a lot of groups, sessions from WAGS, which is our international body, that we work with, and we do not have the manpower to look after and to even say, like, get involved in this. Like me, it's only me that would come to these. Everybody's busy, and a lot of us look after young girls in the association, and we don't really get any big subvention from government. We are hoping to have a bigger subvention this year because we can't even fix our own building. So people like myself, we try to take on girls, besides just going to there the evening, to take them to your home. One girl I have, a really nice little girl, a lot of girls, they've lost it. And these are 13 and 12-year-old girls who are out there already, no guidance, mother doing a lot of things that they're not to be doing. And when I went to get this girl at Christmas, one of them, I was taking her out for the holidays. And when I got to her home, I saw her mother all dressed down. So I said, I'll see you this evening. And she said, no, I'm going to the lunch with you. I said, but I didn't tell the people I was bringing another, but I took her nonetheless. And they welcomed her and so on. And she said, you know, I've never had the opportunity to go out like that. So Girl Guides, besides running group units at schools, is a situation where we do not have the women to come in. And a lot of them join the association if they have a daughter. Like I joined Guides. I was always a guide. I joined Guides because my daughter was 6 at the time, and I went to help with her with brownies. But I'm still here, and she's a grown person. But a lot of them, after the child has done 4 years or 5 years in the association as a brownie or guide, they go. So we lose that manpower. They're only the committed, passionate people like me who really likes working with children that will stay. And it takes money from our pockets because we are not paid for that one. I have to burn my gasoline to go to Grantley Adams, to Lodge School, to St. George Secondary, to all these schools every evening. And sometimes I'm now trying to get money to buy uniforms for some of them because some of the things we belong to, you cannot not wear your guide uniform. So a lot of these girls are really interested. I have 30 girls at Grantley Adams, but only 2 has the uniforms. Wow. Right? So I'm now looking, and some of the teachers buy the uniforms for the girls. And so I'm really looking right now, asking for sponsorship to put these girls, because when we lose these girls out of the unit, they have nowhere to go. When I say so, no safe haven that they can go to for people to guide them. So like right now I'm doing a program with them called Emotional Intelligence, right? Using the iceberg, the top of the iceberg, where you see the iceberg, everything is looking glamorous. But when you go to the bottom of the iceberg, that's where you see the issues. Mm-hmm. So we're using that program with them right now because they can't really become a guide because they have to learn those things, attitude, stop cursing. Last week when I went up there, 2 of them were fighting, and I nearly got in the fight. So I'm saying we have to do those ground things first. And the people in the association like me, and there are a lot of younger people, to be very honest, are not really interested in stretching out their hand to come to things like this. Because our association, we are burdened with a lot of different things in the association, groups, things like WAGs and so on. They're now looking to do a 2020 program with the association because it's young girls, we cannot do guides like how when I was a guide. So we have to now restructure the whole syllabus for the girls so that these girls enjoy guiding. And we're finding that after the children come out to Brownies, when they get into secondary school, they leave. They don't stay in the guides. So that's why I do guides in particular with teenagers rather than, say, the little children. So we ourselves need a lot of help. We just joined back with the Scouts. So on the 8th of International Women's Day, we are going to have our big Thinking Day service, our Founders Day, with Boy Scouts. So we have come back together. The Governor General is our patron, and she wants us not to be Girl Guides and Boy Scouts. So we are joining together, and we're going to be working on different things like going to people's homes, things like that. The AIDS badge, a thing called Free BME, and things like that, so that we work as one unit. So we are now asking men to come in, not to be guys or guiders, to come and join the association and help, because we need that male figure. So
figures.
we are really and truly moving forward. And a lot of us in there who were there long, we have given a lot of ideas, and some younger people don't really like, some people want to get rid of the hat. I don't believe in getting rid of the hat. A hat is a uniform. The police don't wear a uniform without a hat. So we have a lot of new things, and we have a lot of new ideas, and we have a new vision really for 2020 and onwards, because, you know, they're younger girls. So any male willing to come and help, we will welcome you, because we need that, especially for the girls that we work with. But I will continue my fight.
Don't give up.
And you can't change the world, but you can change two. And I have more or less brought to 180 degrees. And we try to expose them. We are going to Panama in summer, and we are taking about 30 of them, because that is what they need. They need love and guidance. They don't need anything. Love and guidance. And once they get that, Barbados will be a better place, especially with our young girls in particular. So I will keep on my
don't give up,
fight.
Sandi, don't give up.
Thank you.
Don't give up.
Thank you
We
as
appreciate
well.
your work.
We actually have a few comments online that I would like to get to, because they're actually really good ideas being shared. I'm going to start with Dawn's first, because it leads off of what we would have been talking about earlier. She says, this might sound a bit far-fetched, but can we not establish productions in each major village or parish, incorporating the local actors, actresses, event planners, musicians, artisans, etc., to develop local attractions which showcase the cultural heritage of the area? For example, a place where locals and tourists can go and get a really good time reenactment of an aspect of culture, rather than a trade show, which is just a collection of service providers. Gun Hill, for example, could be transformed to add the visual and film arts in addition to the artifacts. Technology could be utilized to enhance the experience, and historians and community elders could be consulted to develop the scripts and preserve the history, just thinking out loud. So that is Dawn's contribution. We also have comments from Keisha Griffith. She says, good night. I was fortunate to attend the Ideas Forum, which was held in St. Lucie as part of the regathering activities. There was a number of young men there who were trying to ask what can be done for the young people of the parish. From what I witnessed, this seemed like a cry for help. So many of us have seemingly forgotten about the youth of our nation, or written them off as a lost generation. Some of these young people just need an opportunity. Having said this, I think the focus cannot be only on the physical infrastructure, such as roads, but on rebuilding the confidence of the youth within these communities and making better opportunities available for them. Yes, there is skills training, etc., but sometimes these young people think it's beyond them. A lot of them have low self-esteem and just need that extra help where they're at. And I will add to her comments, because I saw the article which would have summarized some of the comments made by DJ Puffy. And an important element is also mental health, where persons need help, not just physical assistance, but mental assistance with some of the problems and the stress factors that they're dealing with, that they're not sure how to express themselves. And as a community, we need to be able to find avenues for persons to be able to do so. We also have a comment from Arthur Edward, for democracy to mean anything, the division should be along interest groupings as opposed to geography. The community should share interests and not addresses. He went on to expand. Young people, for example, would be an interest group, teachers, coastal communities, rural communities, urban, etc. So we've had those comments shared online so far. We have another. Please share your name for the record.
Good afternoon. For those who do not know me, I'm Maureen Burgess Thornhill.
I didn't catch your name, sorry?
Maureen Burgess Thornhill.
Thank you.
As a mother of young children, I have a daughter at UE who say, Mom, people got to get with it. Young people want to be involved, but they must talk the things young people are interested in. Older people tend to think we don't want to do this. And she have embarked, she lives in Black Rock, in giving back by doing evening lessons with boys, not girls. But she has 6 boys that she has mentored for common entrance. And she want to lay low because she say, gone are the days where we need to be exposed and telling people what we do. We want results because people feel as though young people are doing nothing. At my job, every day people come in and say, where can I go? I'm a returning national. There's nothing happening in my community. And I think as Barbadians, we are lacking that community spirit. That one time people could go to community development offices at the, what do you call them, Cynthia? The centers, and do a little basketry and have a little fun, and sometimes they go on a bus ride and get familiar back with Barbados. But we no longer is doing that. On my way here, I left work at 6 o'clock, and I caught a minibus in Oistins, and the gentleman said it took me 2 hours from Speightstown to Oistins. And I said to myself, but you need a ferry. Gone are the days that we can only think that the bus must be our transportation. Barbados is the land of the sea and sun. We go places and we pay a ferry to take us places. Speightstown is a dock. Somebody in Speightstown can come up with the brilliant idea of having a ferry service, because lots of people from St. Lucie, Speightstown, all over Barbados is working in the south. And if Speightstown can have a ferry from Speightstown to Oistins, half an hour though, cut down all that traffic, all that transportation. We just need to come with new, innovative ideas. You know, there are a lot of returning nationals that still looking to, how can I help? What can I do? Last month, one said to me, I want to give back. But when I send things to Barbados and I go to the port to clear them, it is hell or hell. So what's the sense we going and we want to give, but the giving is so difficult? There are things that the Thorne Commission need to dig deep into. And we have a scene at the airport right now. We have to make it easy because bills must be paid. So in order to keep our passengers coming, we have to flow because competition out there is tight. And if our people can't get it easy here, they're going to migrate to somewhere else. So we need to dig and dig deep. Show our people, flying fish, $40 for 10. So we can't teach our young people to roast a flying fish anymore. It's sad. So we have to find other ways and revenues in keeping our community together. I saw online, I don't know if anybody else saw it, but if you haven't, Donovan, I can send you a picture. Mr. Thorne, I can send you tires now as furniture. Tires from the car, when they're old, they turn them and they paint them and they cover them with cloth and they're posts in the house and furniture for the bars and these kind of things. We can look at China and stuff and we can bring them here to Barbados and show young people, yes, you like to use your hands, this is what you can do though. Get some old tires and do this and we will help you generate how to start your own business. Social media have a positive side. And if we would look at the positivity in social media, young people can embark on it and go a long way, and the block can be much, much, much more positive. I thank you all.
Thank you as well.
I have to come in here because it involves children. I have to allude to what Maureen said. I work with young people, and I am one, like Corey Lane, I don't bash young people. And a lot of our people like to bash young people, even people in higher places. I'm going to talk my mind, because I'm not about a government. My government really is that man up there. I am about Barbados, and I'm about the children of Barbados who are possibly going to lead this country in 20 years when some of us are pushing up daisies. My personal gut feeling, okay, is that right now, and it goes right back to education, which is what she spoke about in a way. The educational system in this country, okay, and this has nothing to do with the minister or else. This is my gut and what I see every day, because I teach children from 3 months old until. My personal feeling is the educational system is of such that we are not teaching our children the things that suit the next 10, 20, 15, 20 years down the road. Okay? It cannot be business as usual. And that is why people like me have to stay in the system till whenever God calls me home. Because what I see, that is why our children are failing. They are failing because the system does not cater to the children. I'm glad the Prime Minister said yesterday that those 3 scholarships will be for children from the newer secondary, children like where I work at St. George Secondary, children who do sheep farming, etc., etc. All right, and put the academics on the back burner for now. We have too many of them. The next thing is the wrong people sometimes are in the wrong holes in this country, and I make no apologies about that. Okay? I have been saying people who have other alternative thinking outside the box ideas. What she said about the tires, they don't call those people to the table. All right? I'm tired saying that. But it is always the people with doctor, masters, and I make no apologies about that, because right now I'm in the process of doing my masters. Not that that's going to help me, because for me, life is about from here and what your passion is and what you do, what you feel. Okay, it's not about the letters behind your name. Not because somebody has a doctor, it means they have more suggestions and the remedy. People like us have the solutions. And until we make our educational system suited, boating, the guy down in that where we in the volunteer group that when we had the cookout, he's saying, but Sandi, really and truly, Barbados is full of water around us, and we do not teach our young people how to make boats. Okay? The things that they need to learn. That's why we're staying Girl Guides, because they taught me how to make gadgets, shoe stands, out of sticks, right? Morse code, the things that really and truly our young people need to learn. And we need a system that caters to each and every one. No child should be left behind, academic or else. And the system needs to be so set up. Okay? I can't wait for Common Entrance to deal with that. Okay? Those children, and I teach those children on a daily basis. Children who can't read at 15 years old, the man is in the van. They do not know how to say the man. I am saying, right? And thank you, Ms. Ford, for sending that lady to me. I am saying that until our system is set up that way to cater to the children who are coming now in our midst, until you deal with children, you really know. We have to take our country, as Maureen said, and teach our children from down in there. That is why, and I'm saying that as a preschool teacher, a lot of our preschools in Barbados are not catering to the needs of those children, autistic, dyspraxia, dyslexia, attention deficit, etc., which I know like the back of my hand. Those children need to be taught differently, because they cannot sit a Common Entrance exam and get 60, 70, or 80 after going through a system, can't read and can't write. So therefore, you have to have a system set up that when they get there, that they have some kind of training and knowledge, so that each person that comes out the school system, and that's why we have all the problems we have. And until you let people who have the ideas go into communities and work with young people, it's the young people, and Maureen said, I don't want a bunch of people who come in to just warm a seat. I want people who come in and put their hands on deck and work. And thank God, I have 15 young people in my group. And I think like them, because you cannot talk down to them. You have to talk with them and encourage them. And when they see that, okay, when they see a system like that, you will tend to find that our young people will be different. But for right now, they're lost. We need a safe haven. For myself and another girl, we are now trying to set up a children's foundation, a safe haven for children, so that those children have some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. So I am saying, I really and truly, I'm really, right now in my life, I'm very, very a little upset with what is happening, because the powers that be need to call people who talking straight. I believe in straight talk and doing it. We have a lot of panel discussions in Barbados, plenty. But guess what happens the next day? It's business as usual. Nobody getting up the next day and say, look, this is what I am going to do. Okay? Thank you.
For the purposes of this recording, can you give us your contact information, because there are persons on the thread that are asking how they can help the Girl Guides Association. So if you can leave a contact number, you could just in the microphone give a contact number.
Sandi.
Okay, email sandikel@gmail.com. We have not gotten our landline in St. Peter from none of the providers, so it's cell phone for right now, 258-6075.
Sandi feed Kelman.
Correct, no S on the feed.
No S. Okay, thank you, Sandi.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening. I don't think we're hearing you, Dee. Yes, there we go. You could state your name for the recording as well.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nalita Gajada. I'm visiting St. Peter. I want to intervene at the point where we were talking about the people not participating in communities. And I hope to get to the point of young people and children. Or maybe I should start with children first. When I was 13 years old, a teacher came to me and she told me about Nelson Mandela. I'm 61, yeah? Up to that time, I did not know anything about Nelson Mandela, but a teacher told me about Nelson Mandela. And I was able at 13 years old to meet a refugee from South Africa who was passing through Barbados. And so my interest in the whole issue of civil rights, racism, change, that is when my interest was awakened. And I say that because I'm not bashing teachers, I'm not bashing leaders, I'm not bashing anybody, but I just want to say that you have to start with something. Something has to ignite the mind of young people. Something has to ignite the mind of old people. Something has to keep you burning and going, because life is just so hard. Sometimes all you want to do is to stay in bed. And I think that we all know that. We've all experienced that. Now, when the People Assembly, how the People Assembly will be able to change that will be to initiate programs that help to build people's understanding and love for country. I don't think that we're not going to go there and do the things that we're talking about doing, as I was saying earlier, going and work for a summer camp. Going and work for summer camp I did for like 5 or 7 years. And my payment was a bologna cutter. And you better believe that if I did not get down there on time, the boys, the male counselors, ate all the bologna cutters, and you were left with nothing. But you came the next day. Yeah? So you need to get people to have a love a country. You need to find what it is that young people love. Young people have a lot of opportunities today. I mean, sometimes I think I was born too early. And I look at the opportunities that young people have, and I say cheese on bread. Look at what these young people can do. But how are they being encouraged to take them up? And I think that that can only be done at the community level, when as a People Assembly, we help to get our people to love ourselves and love our country. A lot of us don't even know anything about ourselves. We don't know. We had Errol Barra Day yesterday. And what was it? People took down their Christmas trees that they didn't take down by the 6th. They took that day to do that. Some people went to the beach and didn't really care. Some people didn't do anything with the television. I mean, my children were growing up, the only channel that they could watch, and they grew up with multi-choice, on Errol Barra Day, was CBC. Because CBC showed focus on Errol Barrow. So you heard the speeches and they know the speeches, and my children can talk to you about the history to some extent, and they have an interest in what's going on in the country. But if you don't expose them, like I'm guilty because I don't expose my grandchild, because she tells me very clearly, no. She does. But I need to find a way of dealing with that. Yeah? But we need to encourage our young people to have a love for country. We need to encourage our young people, and not only young people, all of our people, to have a love of self. Yesterday, I got myself involved in a discussion on Facebook about somebody saying, why do you need another monument for Errol Barrow? And I couldn't understand it, because we don't have the facility for Errol Barrow and the national heroes, as we were talking earlier, David, that allows young people to visit, to see what it is where we were, what Barbados looked like, how much we have achieved in my lifetime, and how much they will achieve in their lifetime when they do. The People Assembly can help us to do that. Because we could spend a lot of time looking at the physical, but if we're going to achieve the physical, we have to work on the emotional and the mental to get that done. How we're going to do that within the People Assembly, that's going to be a challenge. But I believe that people like to work for a cause. People work for a cause. And if we can find a national cause that would excite people to come into the People's Assembly to begin with, and allow them to work around that cause, work to bring about that change, then that passion for involvement, that passion for working with people will develop. And then you'll be able to move the leaves from in front of the well, because somebody going to say, my neighbor might drown, and somebody would take an interest. But what we're doing here is exciting because we're talking about it. And there's not one solution. Not one of us has the answer to any and everything. But I think collectively, as we continue the People's Assemblies, that we will be able, these meetings, we will be able to find the right way for Barbados, the right way for us to know who we are, the right way to feel what it is to be a Barbadian, so that when you look in the mirror, and I'm not talking about Elbara's mirror image speech, although that's fantastic, but when you look in the mirror and you look at yourself and you look at your country, you feel a sense of pride and a sense of belonging to something that is greater than yourself. And that's how the People Assembly, I think, if it's going to overcome these things, that we're going to do. My final comment has to do with how we talk to children and how teachers talk to children. Again, not to bash teachers, but we tend to do what we know best. It's like mothers who still beat children. Yeah? They do what they know best. That is how my mother raised me. That's how I'm going to raise you, without acknowledging that there have been changes. Yeah? So you have children going into classes, especially young ones, because we're asking, why are they not motivated? Why have they not connected? So you have children going into schools, and they're being told, sit, be quiet, stop talking, shut up, don't do that. But if you could spend an hour with children in school and you not hear one positive instruction, not one positive instruction, because all they hear is the negative instruction, don't do this, no, stop, you're going to fall. And then we ask, why are so many young people coming up without self-esteem and a proper image of themselves? If everything I hear is no, I can fall, don't do that. How do I develop as a human being? The ones who are in here as young people are ones who would have been encouraged by their parents and tell them, you could do anything you want to do, because you have the power to be anything you want to be. So you're not hearing no every day, you're hearing take care. And I think that the language again, how we talk to our young people, how we talk to children, toddlers, and help them to understand that they can grow, has a lot to do with why young people disconnect, because they're tired being told no, they're tired being beaten down mentally. I said I wasn't going to say anything, but that's how I feel after hearing the comments earlier.
Thank you for your contribution. David, if you wanted to say something, you'd have 1.5 minutes to do so. If you wanted to, that's fine. Okay. Do you want to share anything before we end?
Yeah, I'll say something.
You now have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
No, what I would like to say is that I'd just like to reflect on the value of these community sessions. And I find that every community session that we hold, that there's another aspect of the matter that comes to the fore. Every session seems to have its own theme. So in the past sessions that we have had, we would have looked at services and how we perfect the delivery of services and things of that nature. But tonight, what we heard about was that the People's Assembly must have some connection with building consciousness, connection with the emotional and psychological condition of our people and development of our people. And that's something, I think this session tonight has hit that note in a way that other sessions may not have hit that note. So it's just to bring home that these groundings are extremely important, and they're helping us to explore all dimensions of this thing called People's Assembly that we have to construct in order to take Barbados forward. And they've given us a lot to think about. That concept of how the People's Assembly can help to build consciousness, to help our people to have a sense of a patriotic national mission, to motivate them to want to contribute, to preserve cultural heritage. So this is, in spite of the small numbers tonight, I think this has been a very productive discussion that is going to give us on the Commission a lot to think about.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, I will wish everyone a good night. I thank you for coming out, and I appreciate the input that you have given. As we would have mentioned, everything has been recorded, and there is a committee that will be reviewing and incorporating your comments into our proposal. The next assembly will be next week, Wednesday, at the Valley Resource Center in St. George. That's what I was trying to remember. It's from 7 to 9. So we look forward to seeing you there, and we also remind you to join the Facebook page so that you'll be able to receive all the information about all the future town halls that will be happening. So as we get the information, as we confirm locations, they will be shared as widely as possible. So we look forward to seeing you in St. George next week. Thank you and have a good night.